Welcome, hello there. Thank you for tuning in. Today I'm doing this live at 3:30 Hong Kong time. It's a little bit awkward time because I have something happening in the evening. But thank you for joining me. Let me see. Okay, now, so for those who are new, so some of you may be new to the this live, which I call Kalo Make Art Study Room. Basically, I've been doing this since March, and we are currently learning the capital letters. So today we have the capital in group 8, which is the last capital group, O, C, E, and D. So I'm going to demonstrate how to write these in very detailed information. Now, what else I want to show you? Because it all kind of started during the COVID-19. So I finally got some more time, and I put together some copy sheets. So a pack of copy sheets like this. This is the Classic Capital. The Classic Capital actually is my Engrosser script version. It comes with the capitals. You also can find the lowercases. I have a Flourish version, so I have a Flourish capitals, Flourish lowercases, and I have a pack for connected words and a pack for beginners. So lots of options for people of different levels. Now, maybe a quick introduction about the tools that I use. So today I'll be demonstrating on this guide paper. You can see it's quite a unique one because it has different divided into different sections, and I think that this will really help you to see the lines. And also when you practice this, is great because you focus each alphabet rather than writing continuously without thinking so much. Now, this is how I always do is I will use my Warna ink. So this is the Warna ink, and I like to use a microcell pen holder, very simple. I also like to use a Leonard EF principal nib with the magnetic bookmarks that I designed. So I clip using this bookmark, so I'm single-handed at the moment. So this is a bookmark which you clip onto the practice paper. So you have a writing page, and underneath you have two pieces of cushion paper. Okay, I just use blank paper as a cushion. Now, okay, let's kickstart. So today we're learning the last alphabet group is letter O. Now, letter O is actually very, very important in Engrosser script. I'm going to turn the camera this way so you can see better. Now, with letter O, in Engrosser script, it is an oval form, but it has quite a unique look of it. Sorry about the noise. I'm currently in the city center of Hong Kong, in Central. Lots of cars and people, impatient driver downstairs the studio. Okay, so I'll write it once and I'll show you, and then I'll explain what I just did. And lift. Okay. So I usually warm up a little bit, write a few times. So this is the Engrosser script style of letter O. When you are writing the letter O, you will notice that first of all, I started with slightly below the ascended two lines. So you want to start just a little bit below it, starting from thin, getting a bit thicker, back to thin, curve up. This one is a little bit straight. Let's start again. Curve up. And then you want to keep going and make another indirect oval. So kind of like a number 6. Now what you notice in this is the two indirect oval happening. So the first one comes from the outer one, that you have gradation of pressure, then you come up, and you do another one. Now the second indirect oval is smaller, so the height is about 2x height, so it goes up to the A1, ascending one. And also you notice that the thick line, it's lighter than the primary shade, which is, this is the primary shade. Okay, because the thing is, if you have both lines very, very thick, it will look very bulky, very heavy for the letter O. Now what I do is then I will come back. I'm gonna go up by retracing this hairline. Now, sorry, the ink dries quite quickly because it's very hot in Hong Kong. So you add a very light shade and enter. So this, it's another oval, but you notice that this oval is slightly off the slant. It's pointing more this way. And I will write it out later to show you. So I'll demonstrate one more time. So first of all, start just slightly below the ascended two line, thinking about curving out and coming up the legs, coming down, another indirect oval, a lighter hand. Notice there is a gap in between. Now this gap, you need to control it, and it looks like it should look like they are parallel to each other. So the spacing should be more or less similar. So now then I will come back, retrace. Again, it dried up already. When you come down like this, add a very light pressure in the center around this area. Now notice that this part of the oval, it's more pointing that direction instead of parallel to the 55-degree slant. Okay, so letter O is kind of relatively easy to write, I would say. I think the tricky part is to come in with this. We call this an enclosing stroke. So when you do this enclosing stroke, just please make sure the intersection here, so where the line is crossing each other, should be perpendicular to each other. So more or less like a cross. So for example, if you have the line and then you come in, you want to cross in a way that this and this, it's more or less a cross. Now it cannot be completely straight because these are curves, but you want to intersect them in a way that it looks like a cross or at 90 degrees. Okay. Is everyone here? Sorry, I suddenly lost all the information on my life. I think you guys are here, right? It's very strange. Okay, now I'm gonna repeat one more time, but this time after I do the letter O, I'm gonna turn it into a letter Q. So I'll demonstrate. That. Then you retrace coming up, curve and intersect. Now for letter Q, when we talk about the group 6 about 2 weeks ago, we talk about the letter Q looks like a number 2, right? And there is another way to write the Q, which I'm going to show you. So this is from previously. The figure 1 is a letter Q that looks like a number 2. Now the variation to write the Q is having the letter O and then plus a compound curve. Now this compound curve looks like a little mustache. That is, I always think about like a Pringle, you know, the cartoon character on Pringle. I don't know why has that style of the mustache. So what we tend to do is when you add this compound curve, instead of placing the nib parallel to the slant, you can either turn your nib towards pointing to the left. So I would say if there's a clock, it's about maybe 11 o'clock. So you want to point that way, and you want to start with a light, no pressure line, then add pressure, and then coming up like that. Okay, and I'll do one more time. So this is thin, thick, sorry, thin. Okay, now regarding to this compound curve, you will notice that you should be able to fit an oval, and there's another oval. So let's rewrite this one more time. Touching up a little bit to make the primary shade a little bit thicker. Retrace. Okay. Then you turn your pen towards that direction, curve, come down. So this is your variation for the letter Q. So this is how you would connect the alphabet by not joining them. Okay. All right. So that's quite easy for letter O or Q. So what I want to bring to your attention is this spacing. You should always keep them parallel. Now regarding to how wide, I think you can experiment yourself. So I mean, the way I write is not the standard way that everyone should write, but you can experiment. For example, if you do a bigger gap, okay, compared to a narrower, you can see the difference. Now personally, I don't like it to be too close, and I don't like it to be too wide. This is, sorry, I kind of put colors in it, but maybe using this can be a good example. Zoom out a little bit. Okay, so to me this is a little bit too wide, a bit disproportional, and then this is too close to each other. It can be quite elegant, I guess, but personally I prefer that, as in the tunnel, the spacing. Okay, now towards the end I will do a summary. So we will look into all the slant, looking onto the ovals, looking into the negative shade as well. Okay, hello, welcome. What time is it in Okayama? Now I have to apologize because I forgot your name. I'm terribly sorry, but I definitely remember you, of course. Sorry. But I think it's cute if I call you Okayama. Okay, now the next one that we're gonna do is a letter C. For letter C, you can actually put it in the group 7 that we did last time for the G, S, and what is the last one? Let me try to remember. G and S, I'll show you. And L, yes. So if you remember, just last week we did this S, L, and G, and today we're gonna do the C. Do you notice that they all, S, L, and G, and C, has the similarity of the direct almond shape on top? Okay, so they can belong to the same group. Now, personally, I separate them. The main reason is because C is more or less like a transition from SLG. It transits to this group because it has a strong oval form. You see, this is a very clear oval shape. Now here, it's not as obvious. Okay, but if you want, you can practice them S, L, and G, and C in the same group. Or you can follow the way I put it is O, C, E, and D in the same group. But the two of them are just like from group 7 to group 8. So basically you can do S, L, G, and then C, transform into oval. How do you say? And then move on to the letter O. Okay, it's really up to you. But I do the letter O first because this group that we're learning today, it's clearly an oval group. All right, now, sorry, the lighting is not very good. Let me zoom in, should be better. Okay, now let's do letter C. So with the letter C, we will start from slightly below the ascending two line, like the letter O we just did. So this time we will do again curve, and you come up and with a thin line. So this we don't add shade here. Then I will put a very light secondary shade or synthetic shade here. Now you will have the direct element, the top element here. So the element is, I'll give you an idea first, is here. So this is your element shape. There are a couple of ways to write that. We learned that last time. If you missed it, you can go back to my IGTV and you can look for the last week SLG group. Then you will be able to learn it again. So when I do the element, you can start from the right hand side. So you do a retrace, come down, add a synthetic shade, eyeing at this point and lift. Then your hand travel up without touching the paper, kind of preparing your movement, and then you come down at the shade here and back and try to connect the two strokes. Now regarding to the shade, you want it to be in the center between the ascending one and ascending two lines. So this secondary shade is in the center, and this shade is also sitting in the center. Now let me write one more time. I'll move on to the next box. Okay. It's like a letter O, but you notice that this is not as high up. It doesn't reach all the way to the A1, right? It doesn't take up 2. For this is about, you can be about slightly about the waistline, okay, above the waistline. Then I will do a synthetic shade. Then you come retrace, aiming for this edge shade, travel like that, connect them. And make a thinner hairline by touching up. Now this is a little bit wonky here, quite stiff. So what I tend to do is maybe I can add a little shade just to curve it a little bit. But it should we should leave this no shade, but to fix it I kind of like do a little touch up. Okay, so for this letter C, this is the first method to write it. So you do the main one, and then you can do this, then you travel up, then you come back down. So that's 1, 2, and 3. The dot 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 means your hand is actually moving in the air with the nib not touching the paper. Okay, so not actually touching. So let's do the second way to write the letter C. Again, you want to start slightly below the ascender 2 line. Let the ink run dry up. Get new ink. I would think about like a number 6. Then you want to touch up. Sorry, not touch up, I mean the synthetic shade here. Now then, the second method is you come down, then let me think, wait. So you come down, oh no, come down from this side, yes. Here, lift, then you start on the right, like that. Now, do you notice this is quite close to each other? This is quite close. So what you can do is you can bring it, when you practice, you can bring it a bit lower. I'll start here, thinking about the almond foam. Lift. And then retrace, add a little bit of pressure and come up, come down. Okay. So that's the second method. So let me try to write this down. You come down first, then you immediately goes here. I'll say number 1 because we already know we start to build the center first. Then you want to come down directly here, number 2. Okay, so there is a third method to write the C, which should looks like this. Sorry, the ink dries up quite quickly today. Well, at the studio I have 2 or 3 AC on, so you want to start at pressure. Relax, thin line, lift at the synthetic shade. Then this time you start here and you keep going and then add the synthetic shade, so it looks like this. Lift, keep going up. I should start a bit higher up, and then you add the synthetic shade. Now I would rewrite this, so I don't like this for sure. My practice, the way that I like is number 1, but the other options I want to provide them so that you can have the options when you practice. So I remind myself not to go too low. This time a little bit higher. And the very light synthetic shade. Lift, keep traveling, very light, curve back in. Then you add the synthetic shade right in the center. Okay, just like this. Okay, now again, I think because I don't practice enough of this variation, when I do that, my mind wasn't thinking very carefully about every detail, and you notice that this is still very close. Ideally is you want to bring it a little bit lower. Okay, so you have a little bit more gap. Can you see the difference? This is too close to each other. Now obviously you can write the letter C this way. You see the paper fiber picked up and the line get thicker, which is not good, but I want to demonstrate you can write starting from here and keep go on and then go on. Now one of the problem that to write like this is you notice this is usually quite flat somehow. Curve a little bit more, maybe you can remind yourself. So this could be a method, but traditionally from Engrosser script, from the Scenarian method, is you always start this part first, okay? Then you add the element at the end or after. Okay. So again, this can be a new additional method if you want to write like that, but I suggest to start using what I show you at the beginning first, because you build the center, then it really help you to adjust the spacing. Because you see, when I start doing one goal, there's very wide here and this is very narrow, it's not very consistent. But if you build the center, then you can adjust the left spacing and the right easier. This is my this is how I think, but I don't know if you feel the same. Now if you connect the letter C to a word, it will be like this. I messed up this part, but this is how there's no connection basically. Okay, yeah, you can leave a little space, but I would say try to keep the spacing. So this is not very good. Let me explain why. Do you see the entrance stroke? It just hit here, is too low. I should aim a little bit in the center, or slightly even on the, let me write the H again. CH maybe. Again, I put it too high. I will redo this. When you practice, don't continue if you notice something is incorrect. Do you know why? Because you just keep developing that bad habit. So if you stop and correct immediately, that will help you to remember. Okay, so that's the C. It's a bit blurred. Okay. Then I have the entrance stroke. So that's what I want. I want this a little triangle to fit in the H. Okay, this is better. It's more open. This is still a little bit narrow, but this is better than the first one. Okay, now I'm gonna move on to letter E. Let's see. For lowercase, as for capitals E, we again starting with the direct oval. So we have actually, if you notice in the E, there are quite a lot of ovals going on. So the way that I would write this is you can start slightly below the ascending two line, just like before. Pick a loop, another oval. Do this like the C, this thin shade. Sorry, meaning no shade. I mean no pressure. Then you add the synthetic shade, which I mess it up. Then you retrace by curving up, then coming down and in, lift, add the synthetic shade. Then you need to add the synthetic shade. What you do is you turn the paper 90 degrees and you follow this very lightly. Tiny shade. Now let me redo this one more time. No shade, like the C. Synthetic shade. Come back here, retrace, thin line, curve down. Now my eyes, I keep checking them to make sure they're parallel. The spacing is parallel to each other. Then you can add a tiny little shade here. And again, turn the paper. Sorry, I keep the camera the same method. Then you come here. Okay. Now, of course, if you want to write the E in one go, you can too. You can start from thin you can also do this too. Do you notice that the E the top part, the oval, which is here, and the bottom is different size? The top is smaller, the bottom is larger. Now this traces back to the Roman capital. The reason is the Roman capital. So in Roman capital, the top part of the E is smaller. The bottom square, the bottom part is of the square part, right? Of the E, it's larger. So the letter E will looks like it's sitting firmly on the ground, more solid. Okay, so you want to pay attention when you're doing this, especially if you also do modern calligraphy. I will pay attention. So if I do variations, for example, if I want to write a more flourish E, for example like that, what I do is I will bear in mind that the top oval here, it's smaller than the bottom oval. So I'm not circling inside, but hopefully this will give you an idea. Okay? So I will do one more time for the E. And I'll talk about the connection as well. So you can start slightly below the ascender 2, synthetic shade, retrace, come down, no shade, come up, no shade, add a tiny shade if you want to, and I do sometimes forgot. Need to turn the paper. The synthetic shade of the camera. Sorry, I turned the camera and the paper at the same time. So if you're curious what happened is I'll stand up holding the camera. I was writing at an angle like this. Then when I do the synthetic shade, I will turn the page towards me. Then I will move down, as in on the little loop. We talked about this previously as well. Elmo. When I was young, I liked Elmo. Among all the Sesame Street characters. Now the last alphabet I want to show you is letter D. Now I'm gonna change the paper because I just finished using the page, so I'm gonna use the spot here. Now for letter D, a lot of the people may struggle writing, so the traditional letter D actually starts like this. Will look like this, right? Now for D, a lot of people struggle with going up. Even here you can see it's a little bit shaky, but this movement can be tricky. Now there is a little tips to help you when you write. By the way, the last thing to do is to turn the paper again 90 degrees to add the synthetic shade. Now notice that my movement is, I'm going to add a synthetic shade of very small accent to like a little makeup, right? So what I tend to do is I follow this line first, right? But when you're following, you add the pressure. Now with the weather is so hot in Hong Kong, the nib does tend to dry quite quickly. Okay, so I follow this line, then add the pressure, then coming out relax. So if this is the curve of the little loop, right? What you want to add the shade is right above here. So you press and exit. Very, very, very small. Yes, D is the hardest. I know. I remember. I'm still kind of like figuring it out, but there is a method which I hope this will help you. Now, when you're practicing, you hopefully you have the 55-degree slant. Now you can draw. Should I draw an oval first? And then you want to dissect this oval into half. Then you will want to dissect the right hand side of the oval into half again. So I do a dot dot dot. Okay, like that. Let's call the center, we call this A, and this is B. Okay. So A is the center line of your oval. B is the right hand side, the center line of the right hand side. So B. Now when you do alphabet D, you want to start the universal line of beauty on B instead of A. So more on the right hand side. Come down, add pressure, reduce, exit out of this. You do this movement, crossing. Well, think about a flat fish. You come down like that, kind of like a letter L. Well, in fact, it is the letter L, the capital L. Once you've done that, you continue moving, follow this oval, and add pressure in the center here, and you curve up. You notice that when you come up, the middle of this oval is hitting the A line, which is the center. Now I will draw one more time. This oval is quite narrow, so you see that D is more skinnier. So again, it depends on the size of your oval, because everyone's oval might be slightly different from one another. So if I draw a little bit larger oval and I try to dissect it in the center, this immediately becomes A. Then you find approximately this line, which is in between this and this, okay? So we call that B. I'll use a pencil first. You want to come down, add pressure, make a fish, come up. Here you want to add pressure in the center. Then you want to turn and follow another oval like that. When you come up, this should hit the line A. Now this thing will stick out of the oval for a bit, because if you do not allow the flat loop, let's call the flat loop, to be a bit longer, then the D will look like it's falling forward. It's too short. Okay, so I would highly recommend you to practice drawing the oval, and once you get used to this, you can try to do it without the oval guide. Now I'm supposed to turn the paper, but because this camera, and also I'm a bit lazy, I just turn my pen that way, so the nib is pointing this way. When I press, it will open very nicely. Okay, so that's the D. And when you connect, okay, so this is how you connect. You can do a lot of drills. I believe you can just use pencil and just repeatedly drawing this, getting used to this movement. Now, when you're practicing this movement, you can use one guide and just redo this. See what I'm doing? It's quite therapeutic. Not really thinking too much, but just like building that muscle memory. Okay, so you can repeatedly doing that. And I think one of the key points when you turn here, a lot of people tend to make the D very wide, like a pregnant D. So maybe you will turn really far away, and then suddenly this D becomes pregnant with a baby. So I would say when you come up, really avoid to go too far. Okay, try to travel shorter distance. If you notice, if you look at here, you see they're more or less the same distance. Similar. But here, okay, I'm counting where that compound curve is touching the baseline. This is very long. So this is A, this is B. You see A and B has a very different length. Well, B is longer than A. But here, maybe my center point should be more, this one, sorry. I'll use correction of fluid. Let's see, cut it. Yeah, it should be more where the transaction. Now if you look at A and B, they're more equal. So the D will look more like skinny and standing still. Okay, so that's how you do the D. So drawing it out, the oval really helps. Now I want to talk about the details of the shade, so let me pick up this. I don't know if I can finish everything in 10 minutes because I start about an hour ago, but let's see how we do. Now if any time I need to, I think the best is I actually stop this because I will come back immediately for the second part, because all my past videos is divided into 2 groups. The second part is always the summary, so in case you want to just start with the summary. So sorry about that. We have some time. Let me show you my studio. So some of you, this is the space. I'm pretty comfortable in this space. This is the shop. If you order anything from my online shop, I actually pack them myself and bring it and arrange the courier. And this is the little Kalo. She's sleeping. She's always sitting by my side. Yay! Okay, I'll come back immediately and then we will cover the summary part. Okay, thank you for staying around. Thank you so much. I hope I did not miss any of the question. And I'll see you in a minute. Bye.